So, Grand Theft Hamlet is very much what you think it is. It's Hamlet in Grand Theft Auto. Well, kinda. It's more or less like the behind the scenes production of a stage production of Hamlet, told entirely within Grand Theft Auto Online. And it's a documentary, but I think the documentary does fairly well in showcasing, like, the forces that went behind making this whole production happen. Because I'm sure, like, you look somewhere online and you can just find like the entire production of Hamlet. So it wouldn't really make much sense to, make a big movie production of it, unless you want to, throw some extra music on top of it, which might be a pretty good film. But I think there is a lot going on behind the scenes that I think it does make a fascinating documentary, especially for a documentary told entirely within the virtual environment within Grand Theft Auto Online. So the whole idea behind how this story came to be was that two actors, Sam Crane and Mark Oostenveen, Mark Oostenveen, that these two guys came together and said, hey, what would be really cool? Like, because they were playing Grand Theft Auto when, London had gone into like its next lockdown in early 2021. They didn't have anything going on, so they were just hanging out in Grand Theft Auto, just having fun. And then they realized, well, you know what? Hey, there's a cool stage here in the game. Like, you could like stage Hamlet here. And then, like the wheels started turning, and, they realized they weren't really getting any acting jobs during the pandemic. So they were just like, hey, why don't we just throw on our own production of Hamlet in Grand Theft Auto, and we'll hold auditions, and we'll recruit people, and we'll run lines, and we'll pick like just the right spots in the game to stage like these certain scenes within like the play, and it'll look really cool if we can get just like the timing down right. But of course, staging this within Grand Theft Auto Online where, cops can fire at you and other players can try to shoot you down. There are all these problems that you have to encounter with the production that make it a bit of a hassle to try to coordinate all this. Not to mention just getting someone to keep this all together, as well as all the players as well. So yeah, there's a lot of issues with staging this production of Hamlet. And most of them are faced here, but there's a lot of like personal issues that are faced as well. Like the two actors, they suffer, problems with like relationships and dealing with like deaths in their family, and just, like everything within reality starts making it a little bit harder to stage this production of Hamlet. Not to mention, like, they do get some really good actors to like, project their voices. And use the right like emoticons and like play within the game to stage it like a perfect production of Hamlet. But a lot of them have like scheduling issues and conflicts. And at one point they find this really good actor, who's handles like Dippo, and he's really good as playing Hamlet. But then like halfway through the production, Dippo says like, look, I can't. I got a real job now, and I'm not going to be able to hang out in the game as much, so I'm probably not going to be a good fit for Hamlet. And there's like this despair that's felt between the actors about, like, what are we doing here? Like, we're trying to stage Hamlet in Grand Theft Auto. Now, granted, no one's ever done this before. This is like, to quote a little bit of Shakespeare, this is like the undiscovered country for this type of like theater medium. But with everything that's going on, it does seem a little bit hopeless and pointless at times. But I think what keeps them going is just this drive and this interest in trying something out, and just this commitment to theater in this digital realm when it feels like all other avenues have been cut off from you with trying to stage a play. And the other interesting aspect too is like the whole film, like I said, it's filmed within Grand Theft Auto, but they do have a filmmaker documenting the behind the scenes process, which is, I think it's like a Penny, who comes into the game. She doesn't really have much experience with Grand Theft Auto, but she gets used to the mechanics, and she more or less becomes like the documentarian. She gets the camera at just the right spot. And I was surprised like how they kind of like film it like a documentary as well, where they have like B-roll footage. Like they'll cut to like footage of like sunrises, or just looking out at the beach, or if like Sam's trying to like rehearse a monologue from Hamlet, and just contemplating like his own life with his own like little narration about what he's feeling at the moment, and like missing anniversaries and stuff like that, and then we get like this B-roll of these NPCs who are like homeless people or people fighting each other on the streets of Grand Theft Auto, and it's weirdly poetic. I think that's what's most fascinating about this film. For taking place entirely within this digital environment, you really start caring for these people. And I think it's because just we've all kind of like been there. And, for so many people who don't get out as much, especially during the pandemic, we all existed in this virtual environment for a long time. Like, we tried to do everything virtually. Like, Saturday Night Live had its own like little like virtual episode. There were a bunch of like table reads for other TV shows that were done entirely within Zoom. There were whole conventions that were just digital live streams and stuff like that. We all occupied this type of space that we were all just like stuck within, and we all felt that similar level of despair here. And I know that in the coming years, and we've already had a lot of these as well, but there are a lot of films that try to best encapsulate what it felt like during the pandemic, where we were all trapped inside and we were all trapped online and trying to find a way to cope with everything. And I think this probably is my favorite encapsulation of that anxiety and that inspiration and that passion that we all felt during that time. Because this was the big thing that nearly drove me to tears with this film. Because I really did feel for Sam and Mark here. I was genuinely rooting for them. Like, when stuff went right for them with their production, with like getting a really good line read or getting like a good framing of the ghost coming up on like this giant blimp that would come up over the skyline, get like this really cool effect. And then they get just the right shot, and then it looks amazing, and they're clapping over their mics. Like, you share that joy. And then, when the production isn't going right and like their lives are coming apart, and it's just, you feel that as well. And it just, it nearly drove me to tears. I was nearly crying over this documentary that's entirely within Grand Theft Auto. And I think that's just because the people who put on this production of Hamlet were just genuinely committed and driven, and just faced a lot of the same personal problems that would face anyone trying to put on a production, and just get everyone's schedule together and just try to survive to live another day. And maybe if you keep at this and keep working at it, something great will come, like Grand Theft Auto Hamlet. And that's what ended up happening here. Like, the guys the guys and women who put on this production, they ultimately ended up winning an award for this, and it's well deserved, especially for the great cast they had here. And I love how you get to like know a little bit about the cast, how like like some of them don't speak English, so they like struggle to project themselves, but they still like have a usefulness for like the production. One of the players is trans, so she talks like a lot about what it was like to feel like isolated, and wanting to have like an outlet like this was important. You really get to know the actors and the people behind this, and you feel for them, and just you care about them, and just it works, for a documentary of about a very unorthodox thing like a play in Grand Theft Auto. It worked really well, and just I absolutely fell in love with everything that went into this production. Like, it's genuinely inspiring and passionate that I was just about to cry at the end with how far they had come and how much they had succeeded. So yeah, I was surprised how much I fell in love with a film called Grand Theft Hamlet.